Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Friday, it's the end of the week, and of course, the month of November is also passing by very quickly. But we've got lots to discuss with you. On the forefront of our discussion today is, of course, Palestine, where 11,500 Palestinians have been martyred, have been butchered since the 7th of October. Now, 42 days have passed since this whole incursion by Israel into Palestinian territories began into Gaza, and now, as per the latest reports, they are searching in every single room of the Al-Shifa hospital. Not only is our hospital an unsafe place for people, but they are also unsafe now for the patients, whether they be women, children or the elderly. The United Nations has also warned of a massive food gap in Gaza through the World Food Programme. Israel has also hit the Jabalia refugee camp, in which 18 people have been killed. But Joe Biden, of course, defends the refusal to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution that has been passed by the United Nations Security Council calls for an extended humanitarian pause, but not of a ceasefire. These are going to be part of the different issues that we'll highlight during the course of our first story. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns India, beginning with Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where Indian forces martyred 5 more Kashmiris. More than 50 Kashmiris have been martyred this month alone, and this year, in fact, and over 0.5 million Kashmiris have been martyred by India since the 1980s to date. Clampdown in Kashmir, in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, continues, specifically since 2019, the abrogation of Article 317 35A. The situation has only worsened, continues to worsen. Then we'll also highlight, when it comes to India, what is happening in Manipur. Over 1,000 police officials have been killed in Manipur violence. Rebel tribes of Manipur have announced to establish their separate government. The situation is beyond the Modi government's control. Now that the elections are just about to happen next year, will the Indian government be able to control Manipur? And will it be again through brutalities as they have been doing in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir? This is going to be part of our second story. Then we are going to talk about pollution, air pollution in particular. And of course, as we have pointed out during the week as well, Lahore, after a lull, has again gained traction as the most polluted city in the world. It has top global pollution rankings. The AQI index is now 470, which is followed by New Delhi and followed by other cities as well. Lahore smog has gone to extremely bad levels, and that is, of course, as we have pointed out in the past as well, creating issues, problems, health issues, specifically concerning lungs, concerning the heart, and are targeting infants, children and the elderly. Then we are going to talk about Joe Biden, who's nominated Adil Mangi as the first Muslim judge. He's been nominated as a circuit court judge. Of course, a lot of good past is associated with Mr. Mangi, because he has worked pro bono for many a case in the United States of America, and his reputation precedes him as being one of the best that is why Joe Biden has also nominated him as the first Muslim judge in the circuit court. And we wish him all the very best. It's going to be a last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns Palestine, Israel, Gaza, West Bank. 11,500 as the number of casualties, and the casualties that are increasing. The hospitals, the schools, the churches, the mosques that are being targeted, the women, the children that are being targeted. Despite the warnings by the United Nations and other Western countries to stop targeting innocent Palestinians, the surge goes on by the Israelis to target these innocent Palestinians. The latest being in the Al-Shifa hospital, in which they are searching room to room, searching, as they say, for some trace of Hamas, which there is none. Searching for tunnels underneath the Al-Shifa hospital, where there is none. We've been joined by Naveed Aman Khan. He's a senior analyst in the studios. Naveed Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Tell us a little bit about the situation in Israel. Where do you think it is going to lead? What is, in your point of view, the end game of Israel?
In fact, the Israel-Palestine situation is now worsening as passing of every moment. For the last 42 days, the barbarism of Israel is continuing in Palestine. They are attacking mercilessly without any interval. Day and night, everywhere in Palestine, we are watching that Israel is bombing with devastating ammunition. And not only in Gaza but also in the West Bank as well. So none of the Palestinian corner is now safe from the barbarism of Israel. They have now entered in Palestine. The tanks of the Israeli forces have entered in, it is reported that have entered in the hospitals of Palestine as well. It is, unbearable for the humankind or the international community to bear it any longer. The international community should come out and stop Israel for such level of barbarism.
The international community has been highlighting this, but maybe it's not translating all what it is saying into some form of action. I'd like to refer to what the United Nations World Food Programme says. It has warned that the Gaza Strip faces a massive food gap and widespread hunger. The situation is severe, but will there be some kind of respite as far as access to food and water is concerned?
The access of food is very important for the Palestinians. They should have been given that access for those who are, desperately in need of medical support or treatment or the food for the children or everybody. The scarcity is, they are facing the scarcity of the food items in that particular Gaza region. America is playing, double game. On one side, America says that the barbarism should be stopped or the attack should not be of that intensity. On the other side, America is providing weapons to Israel and patting the shoulders of Israel, asking for more attacks on Palestine. On one hand, American foreign minister is visiting in the entire region in the name of reconciliation or for the negotiations, but on the other side he is taking time or giving time to Israel to continue attacks on Palestine. So this role is creating problem and is making the Israel-Palestine crisis more complex. This attitude will have to be changed unless America intervenes or seriously asks Israel to stop. Enough is enough. I believe that Israel, the moment America seriously pressurizes Israel, Israel will stop attacking Palestine any longer.
There's also a communication blackout, Naveed Saab, and as per the statement of the head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, this communication blackout is going to have a severe impact on civil order. Do you see this communication block continuing? Do you feel that this blackout will continue for, of course, a deliberate reason, that is they don't want the reality of what is happening to come out, but we see the social media videos that are coming out and the statements that are coming out on a very, very regular basis of what the actual reality of things are. Do you feel that despite communication blackouts by Israel in Palestine, the reality, the truth is coming out?
Definitely. You cannot stop reality to come out. Reality comes out and everybody, like a daylight, everybody comes to know what is happening in Palestine. As far as the commodities of life are concerned, everything is very important for Palestine as is important for Israel or any human being living in the entire world. Food is important or medical aid is important or communication means are important for every person. Now it has become necessity of every person. So if Israel is now going to cut or to disconnect the Palestinians from the communication means, it will never work longer, and the moment the Palestinians find that opportunity to inform the entire world about what is happening in Palestine, the reports comes out, and the people are, they are surprised on the behavior of Israel and the behavior of his master. So the master and Israel both are the culprits, the main culprits. So unless the Muslim world, the Arab world, generate pressure or enhance pressure on both Israel and America, I don't think it will stop. It needs to be stopped because 42 days have gone and we don't find any clue of halting Israel attacking on Palestine. So one need to come out, like the international powers, China or Russia or Britain or America and Saudi Arabia is trying its best.
They've had an extraordinary meeting of the OIC as well on this.
They are trying their best. But the more the Muslim world come out for the peaceful solution of this issue, it will be better.
Ceasefire is also a very important point that has not only not been highlighted in the United Nations Security Council resolution, but is still not being pointed towards by either Israel or other Western states. There is another thing, I mean, the latest being the Al-Shifa hospital. Now there are conflicting claims as far as the Al-Shifa hospital is concerned. The West says, Israel says that this is a center of, this is a command center of Hamas. Hamas says there is nothing whatsoever. They also talked about tunnels being underneath the Al-Shifa hospital, something that has not been proven to date. The White House also talked about the command centers, but there is no proof that has been given by them. Who should we believe? Which information is accurate?
In fact, Israel and America both are lying. What report has come out from the Muslim world or from Palestine, that is correct. I mean, those hospitals are for the treatment, and the patients are, they are not finding even the medicines or the treatment or the operations or any care in the hospitals. Rather to say that the Hamas infrastructure is over there or Hamas militants are over there. I mean, it is totally wrong. This perception is totally wrong. So this is just to misguide or mislead the entire world. And Israel has completely failed on this sort of myth. I mean, the hospitals, they have searched out and nothing has come out of that, those hospitals regarding Hamas activities in the hospitals.
All right, now speaking of that, why is there an issue with evacuating the people from the Al-Shifa hospital? The United Nations talks about that. It says there are factors that are limiting the evacuation of people from the Al-Shifa hospital. Why is that? Why on a humanitarian level can't the people be evacuated?
The attitude of the Western world is surprising. Sometimes they take care of even the birds, the dogs, the cats, the animals, and in such situations they even don't take care of the human beings, or they don't take care of the patients or the ladies, the innocent children, or the newly born children even. I mean, this is quite surprising attitude of the West and the American society. If we talk about the society, we need to talk about the rulers of those countries. If they take care of the creatures on earth, they need to take care of the human being first. The human beings are being butchered in Palestine, in the hospitals, even in the schools, in their homes. If they want to escape, they are fired or they are bombed while they are escaping or they are running for their lives. So this barbarism is exposing the Western and the American leadership as well.
Oh, Naveed Saab, I'd like to refer to what findings have been seen or reported or observed by the Israeli side. They say, and I will quote Yoav Gallant, who is the Israeli defense minister, there are significant findings. We are working with precision and determination. We have uncovered a Hamas tunnel shaft and a vehicle with weapons at the Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital complex. And he says, I quote, he has announced a next stage of the offensive in Gaza during a situational assessment yesterday. What is going to be the next stage? Already they have destroyed a huge part of Gaza. People are forced to relocate themselves. 200,000 people have already left Gaza. Women and children have died. 11,500 casualties as we speak. The hospitals are destroyed, so are the education institutions. What is the next step?
I mean, if the war is not stopped, if nobody comes in front to ceasefire, it will not stop. It will continue, and the whole of the Palestine or Gaza will turn into debris. I mean, thousands of the buildings are now grounded. Those who are already in the debris of those buildings, and there is no infrastructure or no machines are available, or there is no mechanism to just bring out those who has died in that debris. So the international community, or when I talk about the international community, it means the Western world, the rulers of the Western countries. They will have to just come out. I mean, it is enough now. The Palestinians are helpless. They're not, sinful. I mean, they are just looking for. They are at the mercy of the world. So we need to extend our fullest of support to them and to halt the bombardment at
I mean, the United Nations Security Council has passed a resolution for extended humanitarian pauses, but this is no ceasefire.
I mean, the resolution is not the solution. In fact, the seriousness is the matter, and the seriousness of I would once again mention that American seriousness is will matter. Because America has sent 2 aircraft carriers in the waters very close to Iran, just to horrify Iran that if you decided to extend any sort of political or diplomatic support to Hamas, will have our direction to Iran. So that is not the way to stop this war.
Okay.
The way is to just come out and sit with the Israeli authorities, sit with the Palestinian authorities, negotiate and find the way out. We will have to find the way out. I mean, if the war continues for months and months, ultimately
the ultimate solution is talks, and the ultimate solution is the application of the two-state solution. Yes, the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees says there will be no aid deliveries into Gaza from the Rafah crossing from Friday because of a lack of fuel. How can you then help the people if you can even now not deliver aid to those who are in need of water or food or supplies?
They are waiting for water, milk. The children are, helpless, and they're waiting for food. The medicines, the treatment, the paramedical staff, everything is now needed in Gaza and even in West Bank as well, because they are also being affected and they are also being bombarded in West Bank. So the corridors will have to be opened. Those ways which are connected with Egypt, Jordan, and even to Lebanon. We'll have to open those corridors just to provide that support to the Palestinians, and just to give way to all those who want to get refuge in those neighboring countries. Because I mean, it will be again barbarism on the Muslim countries' side as well. If on the front Israel is attacking, and on the back you are not opening that corridor for their flee. I mean, for their lives, they can go elsewhere. They are forced to be killed. I mean, it is not the way. At least those countries who are bordering the Palestine, they need to open those borders just to give them life. The life is very important for every person. If Pakistan has given that access to Afghanistan in past, and millions of the Afghans have come to Pakistan to save their lives, Pakistan has shown that wonderful gesture to the Afghan refugees. So same attitude should be shown or given by the neighboring countries of Palestine as well, for the life of and security of those Palestinians as well.
Or the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights says that the killing of civilians in Gaza cannot be dismissed as collateral damage, and he has also called for a ceasefire based on humanitarian and human rights damage cause. Do you feel that when he talks of collateral damage, he is right?
It is not. I mean, the thing is this: Palestine is not damaging Israel now. Palestine is being damaged. So it is one way now. I mean, at the start,
and now there is disease, there is hunger, there are so many other things that are coming. People are dying of starvation.
I mean, they are dying with bombs. They are dying with diseases. They are dying with food because of the scarcity of food. I mean, they are dying because of everything. So, I mean, this is one way. This is not, collateral. This is not damaging Israel at all. This is damaging Palestine. Israel and Palestine have common border, but on one side of the border is prosperity. Everything is there. Food is there. I mean, happiness is there. The life is there. Care is there. Everything is there. On the other side, the millions of Palestinians are dying for food, for treatment, for safe life, and they are in trauma. The bombardment is now making them psychological.
Of course, there are going to be psychological implications for the women and the children specifically. Do you feel that what Israel is doing is also having implications, political implications within Israel as well? We've seen a lot of people from the Jewish faith stand up side by side with their Muslim and Christian brethren in the big protest, huge hundreds of thousands of people who protested in different countries in the West.
Yes.
Now, Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid has repeated his call for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign. He says we cannot run an extended military operation with the Prime Minister we do not have faith in. Will that happen? Will that change happen?
Definitely, it is very important move. The move within Israel is the most important move as compared to the move of the entire world, because within Israel, the Israeli society has retaliated and they have shown their concern against Netanyahu, and they have protested. They launched serious protest against Netanyahu, and Netanyahu is now suffering and facing a double-edged, number one, because of that situation which occurred on 7th of October. Number two, the Israeli nation, they are blaming Netanyahu that Netanyahu is now butchering humanity. So they don't want the humanity be butchered along their border. So those Israelis, those Jews are not, all of those are not cruel. They are not brutal. They are human beings. The brutality is only in the politicians and the rulers.
All right.
So that society is now pressurizing Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Netanyahu will feel that heat. The more the Israeli society comes out, or the Israeli politicians come out against Netanyahu, I think it will work.
All right. Finally, I'm coupling one or two, situations that are happening on the diplomatic front. First of all, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the Turkish leader, is visiting Germany, and we know that Turkey has had relations with Israel, but that Turkey has also been very vocal against what Israel has been doing. On the other hand, Germany has a very different stance as far as, is this going to hamper relations between different countries, for example, Turkey and Germany? And secondly, Norway's parliament has adopted a resolution calling for the government to recognize an independent Palestinian state. Do you feel the world is changing as far as the perspective towards Palestine and towards Israel is concerned?
The more Israel is going for brutality and barbarism, the more the world is changing. The behavior of the West is also changing, and it is divided. The entire Western world is not, standing with Israel or with America. They are divided. So that divide is also in favor of Palestine as well. So the pressure from the Western masses or the public is also helping Palestine. The efforts of Tayyip Erdogan are remarkable, and he has always been very active in the Islamic or in the Muslim world for this Palestinian cause. He is once again out to find that in diplomatic support or to find that political solution of the issue. I think advanced role will also be very important for finding that two-nation solution of Middle East. The only solution of this problem is two-nation solution and life and the right to have determination for the Palestinians as well. It is available to the Israelis. Those laws, those rights which are available for the Israelis, same are asked for the Palestinians as well.
I think it's important for the world to realize, and we're seeing the changes occurring in the world, especially with the protests that are happening across the world, and the different governments that are seeing the pressure, that are feeling the pressure of the people of the respective countries, because it is the people that wield the voting power, and that is how the change will come. And we are already seeing the change, like for example what is happening in Norway, like what will happen in the coming weeks. All eyes are on these Western countries as to what kind of maneuvering we will do, so that this humanitarian pause that has been decided upon in this resolution of the United Nations Security Council can be further translated into a ceasefire. Thank you very much, Naveed Aman Khan sahab, to have joined us. That was Naveed Aman Khan, who of course was talking to us about the situation as far as Palestine is concerned. Let's talk about our second topic, and our second topic concerns India. We are going to divide this into two parts. The first on what is happening in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and the second of what is happening in Manipur. When you look at what is happening in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the number of casualties has increased, and of course the 5 is the number of people that have been martyred recently in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. This year more than 50 Kashmiris have been martyred in different incidents as per a report, and 0.5 million, more than 0.5 million Kashmiris have been martyred by Indian forces since the late 1980s. Also, the clampdown in Kashmir has brought a fear of demographic change that are already happening post August 2019, after the Articles 370 and 35A were abrogated. The domicile law that has been put into action, and the housing schemes have also sparked a lot of suspicion as far as illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. Also, we will be talking about Manipur, where there is a lot of happenings as far as one of the groups is concerned. The rebel tribes of Manipur have announced to establish their own government if the Modi government does not fail to legitimize their demands within a week's period. So a lot of happening in India. We've been joined by Dr. Mujahid Gilani. He's a Kashmiri leader, and he's in the studios talking to us about Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We'll begin with that. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Pleasure to have you here in the studios after quite some time. I hope you and family are fine.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Let's begin with what is happening in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Again, we see 5 Kashmiris killed in southern Kulgam. This is not the first time, doesn't come as a surprise. It has more or less become a norm when you listen or read about people being killed or butchered, or women being raped, or people being incarcerated in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Is this the new norm as far as the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Very rightly said, Omar. If we take into account the current situation in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, particularly the incident that you have just narrated, where 6 Kashmiri youth were martyred and 2 of the houses were burned down using chemical weapons. And we must understand that in the current regime, in this Hindutva regime of BJP being led by Narendra Modi, this has essentially become a norm. In the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, every day, it's an everyday news that we hear about. It's either 1, 2, 3 Kashmiri youth being martyred, maimed, incarcerated, women being raped. Even school-going children are not being forgiven. They are being targeted as well. We know about the pellet victims. We know about the pellet guns being used extensively in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But lately, we also understand about the chemical weapons that are being used, the charred bodies that we have seen of the Kashmiri Mujahideens, of the resistance fighters that we have. In fact, India has been using these bombs, India has been using these weapons for the past several years by now. To be really honest, on one hand, we must understand that India is employing a very strategic design. On one hand, we see that India martyrs Kashmiri youth on daily basis. On the other hand, we see that India is essentially marketing a drug addiction program in the whole of the state, the Jammu and Kashmir. we must understand at this point in time, the current report that we have, it's almost 52,000 Kashmiris are heroin addicts. 52,000 Kashmiri youth who would have actually completely.
And this is a deliberate attempt to kind of, stop them from becoming part of any movement for their right to self-determination.
Any addict, any drug addict essentially becomes a useless organ of the society. And particularly in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, we understand that the Kashmiri youth are at the forefront of the freedom struggle against Indian illegal occupation. India is essentially using it as a tool.
Now, the different laws that we have seen since August 2019 that have been put into implementation in the Indian Held Valley, whether it be through it changing for changing the whole demography of the region, or whether it be regarding the number of Kashmiris being reduced to a minimum, and the number of other nationalities, or other castes, creeds, Hindus being the majority, so that tomorrow if there is a plebiscite, the results will be quite dissimilar or contrary to what has been the demand of the people of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. How do you see all of these laws being put into action, and can they not be challenged in any international court?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, the Kashmiris are being subjected to the worst kind of human rights violations, and the first and foremost, the most fundamental of it is the right, is the choice of exactly choosing where you want to be. And the Kashmiris have not been given that right for the past at least 70 plus years, where the Kashmiris essentially wanted to choose between Pakistan or India as per a free, impartial and free plebiscite. But today, particularly after the 2019 Act, the unilateral illegal act of India, we understand that the Kashmiris perhaps will never be given that right in its actual and real form. The Kashmiris, so-called Kashmiris that now we have, are the Kashmiris who are being given legal documents just on the basis of Indian whims that, okay, you have stayed here for 5 years, now you're a Kashmiri. Your daughter, your son has studied in a Kashmiri school for 7 years, now you're a Kashmiri.
Even those who are part of the forces are now being given the national.
They are being given Kashmiri domiciles and will be labeled as Kashmiris as we go down the lane. And ultimately we see that these are going to be the people, these are going to be the majority who are going to vote in the so-called free impartial plebiscite. But once again, we need to understand that the United Nations had taken a very firm stand on it back in 1954 and 57, when India had tried to essentially replace the local elections against this referendum and plebiscite. India had essentially claimed that we are conducting an election, and whatever election is being conducted in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir should be considered as a substitute of the referendum, which at that point in time the United Nations had very firmly and categorically denied. And this is what needs to be done today as well. The United Nations and the movers and shakers of the world must understand.
But how can when you are not allowing the UN MOGIP to even enter into illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, how can you allow the United Nations to implement any resolution on Kashmir within the Indian held territories?
Absolutely. Indian obstinacy is very clear. Indian obstinacy is very clear even at this point in time. When we talk of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, let's for once talk about the occupied Palestine as well. These are
very similar situations.
Exactly. These are essentially, I believe, faces of the same coin. And this is where the world needs to intervene. If the Western world, if the Western civil society at this point in time can chant Gaza, Gaza in their own places and in their own societies, I'm sure they can talk about the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir with the same fervor and zeal as well.
More than 0.5 million people have been butchered, have been massacred in the last 76 years in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. There are various reports that have come and have been made part of the documentation of the United Nations, of other international organizations. But this is what they remain. They remain part in a bundle of facts and figures, and we talk about it and nothing more happens. How can we move forward to the next stage?
Let's be very honest. If you are asking this question from a Kashmiri who belongs to the ground, The answer is very simple to it. We have given our lives to it. It's not that we have given our wealth and time only. We have given our lives to this cause. We have sacrificed our sons. We have sacrificed our daughters. We have given women, Kashmiri women who at this point in time are being incarcerated in the New Delhi's Tihar jail. We have given everything, whatever we had, to this cause, because we understand that this land is ours. The decision needs to be by the Kashmiris, and Indian authorities, the Indian puppets, essentially understand only one language, and that language is the language of force. This is from a Kashmiri who is from the ground, and that is why when we resist by the guns, be it Mannan Wani, be it Burhan Wani, be it any of the Kashmiri resistance fighters, we are quite legit in resisting Indians with a gun as well. But as far as the outside world is concerned, we need you to talk. We need you to talk with facts, figures, document them, and not only document them, disseminate them in the world countries who essentially you think are powerless. Let's be very honest. United Nations is not just a building. United Nations is not just seats. Even Czechoslovakia, Uganda, smaller countries occupy one vote of that area. And if that one vote falls into your favor, you're winning it.
But the fact also remains that despite the hue and cry by friends of the Kashmiris, and specifically I'd like to mention here Pakistan and all its endeavors in the right direction, whether it be highlighting it in different fora like the United Nations, in the OIC, in the SCO and other fora, whether it be making documentations on what has been happening in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir region and the barbarities that continue to date. What more can do? Who has a decisive power as far as really putting a solution to this decades-long issue? The only thing, if I understand well, the people of Kashmir want, in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir want, is their right to self-determination, is their right to decide what they want to do with the land that they live in. Why can't a simple thing be attributed, given to them?
You're absolutely right, and to be really honest, being Kashmiris, I can understand the emotions that you're filled with. But let me be honest about it here. On one hand, I completely, as a Kashmiri, we would die for Pakistan. And as a Kashmiri, we have chanted slogans of Hum Pakistani hai, ye Pakistan hamara hai. And we have received bullets just because of this. Even the founder of this particular statement, Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani Shaheed, was subjected to a very brutal ending. But we need to understand another thing. It's not just Pakistan, it's the friends of Pakistan as well. For once, if UAE does give or issues a statement against the human rights violations in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, on the other hand, we see that it essentially accolades Narendra Modi with the highest civilian award that it has. On one hand, where we see the Arab world, Arab countries talking about Palestine, somehow we don't see them talking in the same tone about the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. If Malaysia essentially could curtail its palm oil business with India at one time, if Turkey could essentially issue a statement that could shake the Indian parliament and Indian authorities, why can't the rest of the Muslim world do it? And if they can't do it, then let's turn our faces towards some other countries. Countries who can essentially face up to India, who can essentially vindicate Pakistan on all its stands, whether it be the 2019, whether it be the fabricated and false charges on Pakistan by India regarding its surgical strikes. We need to go to those countries, we need to talk to those countries about Kashmir as well, so that our case is at least more strongly presented.
I totally agree with you on that, Dr. Gilani. There are so many different movements that are happening within India as well. Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and of course the right to self-determination for the people of that area is on the top of it. But there are so many other movements that are happening all across India, and I'd like to now revert to what is happening in Manipur. We have another guest and I'll come back to you, but I'd like to ask my guest who's online as well as to what the situation is Manipur is as fact. Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, one of his expert, joins us online. It has been some time that we had talked. Dr. Saiba, thank you very much to have joined our show. Manipur, rebel tribes announced to establish their own government if the Modi government does not fulfill their legitimate demands in 2 weeks. They say they will set up their own independent government. Is that a possibility? Can that really happen?
Well, it can happen in a situation where the people feel very helpless and they are not, their rights are not being addressed. And especially the situation in Manipur has become very critical since May this year. So there have been the continual demands on the part of the minority, that is Kuki, and to look after their grievances. But unfortunately, the laws that have been passed have not addressed any of those issues.
But Dr. Saiba, isn't it the fact that the Modi government has been siding with one of the tribes and not the other, and that is why there is a huge disarray between people in Manipur as to what the future of their region will be like, and that is why we see demands such as or statements such as what have emanated. What demands, speaking of demands, what are the demands that these indigenous tribal leaders forum is making, and do you feel their threats are valid and legitimate?
Well, we have to segregate this question, Omar, into two parts. I'll try to be very brief here. To begin with, the whole situation came to the notice in May this year when a Kuki girl two girls were raped by the Metis tribe, that is the majority tribe in Manipur, because mostly of Hindu origin, and the rest were of Naga and the Kuki. They are mostly of the Christian community and have come mostly from Myanmar. So what has happened is that when these girls were paraded and the whole, it became a big issue, and the Prime Minister of India, Modi, has said that this is a shame on the face of India. So moderate community within India and civil society organization, everybody thought that there is going to be a very strong action against these people. Initially there was. We also have to understand that the government in Manipur is held by the majority, that is Metis, although the Kukis are part of the parliament as well, but still the control is with them. So initially there was some sort of that the government looked the other way, who were in charge, and they were reprimanded by the central government. What happened over the time, that there has been a gross human rights violation, and secondly, there has been a lot of misgovernance in case of the Manipur. So all the pledges and the peace agreement, there is the whole list of that. Unfortunately, they have been violated for one reason or another. Recently, what has happened is that after this ultimatum that they have given for the 2 weeks, that if they are not going to address the demands, so then they are going to go for a separatehood, or you can say a totally self-contained or a government on their own. What is happening, we see, is a neglect or turning the blind eye to the grievances of the Kuki community. I think I'll stop here, and maybe another question, if you want me, I can answer that. What have been their other grievances?
But Dr. Saiba, all right, I'll ask that next question. Since the riots started in Manipur 6 months back, more than 1,000 people have been killed, more than 6,000 people have been displaced. And of course, more than 100 police personnel have also been killed, with more than 5,000 government weapons being looted. Are the government weapons being used in this violence, in this whole episode since the last few months?
Umar, there has been so much of contradiction of what's going on in Manipur, because one must say, as an observer, into these affairs, insurgencies and things like that, there is an illegal flow of weapons, and Myanmar, we all know, has an issues of governance, and what happened there a couple of years earlier as well. So there is also another issue of related with the drug cultivation as well. Well, happen is that the central this Metis government, that is the one people who are in charge, they blame the Kuki people or their areas. These are the ones who are on the hills, and the majority is in the valleys. So they blame them that these are the ones who are involved in this whole drug business and illegal flow of the weapons and immigrants. On the other hand, what Metis has been, they are using the cleanup operation as a mean, according to the Kuki and the independent press, as a mean to cleanse these areas. So once they are cleansed, they want another important point here to be noted is that according to the rights or the agreements after the 1949, accession of this state of Manipur into the India, and later on, the Mitai, that is the majority of the valley, is not given a permission according to the law to have the properties into the Kuki area and the hilltops. Now they have moved the resolutions that we need to have this special schedule of the constitution be lifted now. We want to have it as a one part Manipur. So we want to buy and purchase and settle into those areas and develop those areas. So this is very much resisted by the Kukis because they already feel that they are deprived. They are deprived politically. They are deprived economically, and also there is a very less human development, work that has been done into these hilltop areas. So these are the various factors that have combined. And another important point is that one must say that the forces, the government forces, specifically the police, have suffered the huge human loss and the infrastructure as well. But there are militias on both sides. It is not only the one-sided game. On Mitai side, there are also equally lethal militias that are working, and they are taking advantage of the sensitivity that exists on ground.
Well, of course, at the end of the day, it's the people that are the worst victims of it all, and this is what is happening in Manipur. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, to have joined us. Last question from you, Dr. Gilani. You have heard what Dr. Shabana Fayyaz had to say about Manipur, another movement that has gaining ground. Then we have the Sikh movement that is also gaining ground. There are so many other movements that are happening all across India. One of the leading media outlets says, and it refers to what is happening in Manipur, that the situation is beyond Modi government's control despite deploying more than 100,000 personnel. This is just one example. We couple that with what is happening in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and so many other things that are happening. Is the current Indian government losing its hold with the elections happening next year? Will it have any effect? Will we see a new leadership emanating and maybe some solution to issues that pertain to important communities such as the Kashmiris in IIOJK and that in Manipur?
See, Umar, for once I would really want to be wishful in my thoughts, but then what I see in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir particularly, and in the mainland India, if you really go through the manifesto of BJP, we understand that they had promised a Ram Mandir. Yes, they got it done. They had promised the abrogation of Article 35A and 370. Yes, they got it done. They were talking about the Citizenship Amendment Act, and essentially they made more than 2 million Muslims homeless, in fact stateless. So where we see the manifesto of BJP, we understand that BJP has been very systematic about its actions, about the enforcement of its actions, about the enforcement of its laws as well. So whatever is happening in Manipur, for once, yes, I completely agree that we may consider that the particular state may be going out of the hands. But on the other hand, we also see that India very proudly claims that it is eliminating the enemies of India outside the Indian soil as well. And this is what we have seen particularly in case of Canada. But for the Indian current ruling regime, this is kind of a plus point. This is kind of a moment of pride that whoever is against India, no matter wherever he lives, wherever he stays, is not going to live.
As we say, all pride hath a fall. Let's see what happens in the next Indian elections and in the next coming months. Thank you very much, Dr. Mujahid Gilani, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first is on Lahore, that has again topped global pollution rankings with an AQI index of 470. Now, which is, of course, this is because of the smog. You can see the images in the parallel window, caused by a combination of vehicle emissions, industrial pollution, and crop burning. Now, these are things that are being put into control by the current government in Punjab, and this is what needs to be done on a long-term basis as well, so that people do not suffer the effects of smog and air pollution as has been witnessed and continuing to be witnessed by people in Lahore. Finally, US President Joe Biden nominates Adil Mangi as the first Muslim judge for a circuit court. Now Adil Mangi, this is a huge thing for of course not only for Mr. Mangi and his family but also for Pakistan, because Mr. Adil Mangi is of a Pakistani origin. He is from a prominent Sindhi family and is among the 5 nominees for federal judgeships released by the White House. This is of course one of the examples of the push for diversity by the Biden government, and it is working in the favor, because the way Mr. Mangi has been working on pro bono cases and other cases in his professional life speaks laurels of his professional capabilities, and that is why he has been nominated for this role. He has said, and I quote, "I thank President Biden for his historic nomination. I look forward to introducing Adil Mangi to my colleagues on the Senate Judiciary Committee for this hearing." This was being said by Senator Cory Booker, member of the US Senate Judiciary Committee, who also applauded the nomination. Congratulations with Adil Mangi and to his family as well. With that, we come to the end of today's newsroom. See you inshallah on Monday with stories that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Have a great weekend. Allah Hafiz.